Well, I think one of the, if I've made any contribution to this, then one of the things that I'm most proud of is to have come up with the phrase problem, reaction, solution to describe the most used and the most powerful method of mass, mind and emotional manipulation that has been used on us to advance this agenda. You want to change society in a way that if you did it openly and had a meeting and said, right, well, tell the public this is what we're going to do, you know that you would get a massive public reaction against what you want. So you don't do it openly. You play this technique.
Cecil Rhodes in Africa, you can go to a tribal chief and play one against the other, the other one against the other, and you can use the turmoil and the hostility to bring about the outcome that you want.
Imagine if the changes that have happened since 9/11 in terms of the destruction of freedoms and civil liberties had been proposed without 9/11. What you do? We're doing. We're not. This is fascist state. We're not having this. Oh well, no, we've got to have it because it's terrorists. You know. Stage one, you create a problem. It could be a terrorist attack, it could be a war, it could be a government collapse, it could be a run on a currency, it could be a credit crunch, rising food prices, rising mortgages. Anything that will give you the opportunity to install the solution to that problem that will advance your agenda. You blame someone or something else for it to hide the fact that you're really behind it. I.e. Bin Laden did this, Lee Harvey Oswald did this. You then, through an unquestioning and pathetic media, tell the people the version of the problem you want them to believe. If we had a journalistic profession, even in any way, justifying the name, problem, reaction, solution fall down, because the explanation would be investigated, it would be found to be wanting, it would be reported to the people, this would collapse. Because we don't have a journalistic profession worthy of the name, the problem is created, the cover story of the problem is then reported to the people as official history, uninvestigated, and what they're looking for at stage two is a reaction from the public that says in effect, something must be done, what are they going to do about it? Fear, outrage, do something. Do something. And then those who covertly created the problem, got the public reaction, do something, then openly, through changes in legislation, offer the solutions to the problems they have themselves covertly created. And those solutions are changes in society which advance the Orwellian state and centralization of power, so the few can have more and more power over the many. Stands back in amazement. I'm shocked. Knock me down with a feather and I shall swoon. It's so blatant, it's so crawlable, it's an open book. You should do the research to realize where this is going. Abraham Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. Without public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. He who molds opinion is greater than he who enacts the laws. And he could say, he who molds opinion can then enact any laws he wants. Problem, reaction, solution. Solution. Solution.
This is outcome-based framework. It's saying, this must occur. This is the end result that we want, and anything else is undesirable and we will not settle for. It's going to happen this way. We just have to convince people that it has to end up happening this way. So what you do is you guide thought and action into decision making that ends on how you want it to be.
On the basic intellectual level, it's the terrorists. We've got to protect you from the terrorists, so we've got to take your freedoms away so we can protect your freedom. Oh, that sounds good, I'll vote for him.
Dialectic is made up of three attributes: thesis, an idea or opinion; antithesis, the opposite idea or opinion; and synthesis, the alchemic process to bring together a wanted change. It is commonly referred to as order out of chaos.
synthesis and antithesis to create synthesis, the sorcerer's middle pillar.
They have a motto, ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. Problem, reaction, solution. You try manipulating harmony, very difficult. You try manipulating chaos, piece of cake. They want chaos. You see, through problem, reaction, solution, we need to switch our minds a bit here. Because of problem, reaction, solution, they don't want crime figures to come down. Because if they do, they can't offer the solutions to the crime figures, which is more control. They want people knifed in the street. They want problems with food because then they can offer the solution of genetically modified food, which they're doing, this government now, even though the people have rejected it overwhelmingly. They want the problems. They have to have them or they can't offer the solutions. This is what Bush said after 9/11. You're free and freedom is beautiful, and you know it'll take time to restore chaos and order out of chaos, but we will. Problem, reaction, solution. Solution.
The illusion of choice. Do you want the Republicans or do you want the Democrats? Do you want Labor or conservative? Do you want liberal or conservative? Coke or Pepsi, exactly. And that illusion of free choice is what gets people, even though it's a false choice, it's a false paradigm, gets people to accept the program of the Matrix. And what the choice ultimately is, do you want this form of control or do you want this form of control? But either way, you're under control. See, it's this hand or this hand, but either one's going to punch you in the teeth. Because it's controlled by the same mind who doesn't give a damn about it. Okay? And that's the false choice that people are presented. Hegelian dialectic is what this is called. The presentation of a false choice to give the person who you're controlling the illusion that they've made the choice for themselves. And this is all an illusion. Just like politics, it's all an illusion. It's all fake. It's all puppet show. And the puppet master is getting ready to knock you out. Because he has the puppets on both hands, and whichever one you pick, you're getting knocked out by. You're getting dropped. I like to call it chaos, confusion, opportunity, because I think it more accurately describes what the process that's taking place is really about. You want to create chaos. You need a chaotic situation created, because the reaction that you're looking for is confusion, not knowing what to do or how to act appropriately to the situation. Once confusion enters the mix, you have fear-based consciousness. So the person is willing to accept all kinds of limitations and control to go back to order. And therefore, that's your opportunity to bring in real predetermined solutions and get them to go along with what you originally wanted. This is accomplished by manipulating consciousness into a circular pattern of thought and action. So again, it's a manipulation of consciousness. It's ultimately about mind control. The synthetic solution to these conflicts cannot be introduced unless those being manipulated take a side that will advance the predetermined agenda. The agenda is already predetermined. You just need synthetic conflict to make this come into manifestation the way we have it originally planned and designed. David Rockefeller described the Hegelian dialectic perfectly. He said, "We are on the verge of global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the new world order." Voltaire said, "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. You go along with what simply is not true, you can be led to any number of atrocious actions
There's even another version of this now called no problem reaction solution, i.e. weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You don't even need a real problem, you just need the perception of it. It's all a bloody mind game.
Pressure from above and below. Deliberately create problems, and then offer only those solutions that result in the expansion of government. Create conditions so frightful at home and abroad that the abandonment of personal liberties and national sovereignty will appear as a reasonable price for a return to domestic tranquility and world peace. If those who seek world dominion can stimulate leftist mobs into violent confrontation with local law enforcement, and also provide exhaustive news coverage so that the entire nation can see and tremble, then the peaceful and freedom-loving majority can be programmed to accept a vast expansion of government powers and even a national police force, offered supposedly to end the violence. If those who seek world dominion can raise the specter of an enemy armed to the teeth with superior atomic weapons on the verge of launching a nuclear holocaust, and also offer world government as the prevention, then millions of Americans can be programmed to accept the loss of national sovereignty as our last best hope for peace. This is the meaning of pressure from above and below. To put over police state measures at home, they need chaos, crime, and anarchy in the streets. To sell the idea of world government, they need the constant threat of nuclear war. Or, as they say in revolutionary circles, the real action is in the reaction. In 1968, Random House Incorporated published this book by James Coonan, The Strawberry Station, Notes of a College Revolutionary. Coonan was one of the leading participants in the first student seizure of an American university, which occurred in Columbia in April of 1968. Initially, the movement was not large and easily could have been stopped by a simple police action. But as usual, the anti-establishment forces received their greatest help from the establishment itself. For several days, police were told not to interfere. Meanwhile, university officials groveled in the face of outrageous propaganda charges, and the media made national heroes of the rebelling students. MGM even made a movie out of Coonan's book. On page 130, Coonan wrote, "In the evening, I went up to the U to check out a strategy meeting. A kid was giving a report on the SDS convention. He said that at the convention, men from Business International roundtables, the meeting sponsored by Business International for their client groups and heads of government, tried to buy up a few radicals. They offered to finance our demonstrations in Chicago. We were also offered ESSO, or Rockefeller money. They want us to make a lot of radical commotion so they can look more in the center as they move to the left." Jerry Kirk, while a student at the University of Chicago, was active in the SDS, the Du Bois Club, the Black Panthers, and the Communist Party. In 1969, Mr. Kirk broke from the party, and the following year testified before the House and Senate Internal Security Committees. Here is what Mr. Kirk has told us. Young people have no conception of the conspiracy strategy of pressure from above and pressure from below. They have no idea that they're playing into the hands of the establishment they claim to hate. The radicals think they're fighting the forces of the super-rich, like Rockefeller and Ford, and don't realize that it is precisely such forces which are behind their own revolution, financing it, and using it for their own purposes. When Stokely Carmichael was head of the militant revolutionary group known as SNCC, he was invited to speak at the University of Chicago. Jerry Kirk, then still a Black Panther, was among those who attended, and here is how he described Carmichael's appearance. Mr. Carmichael was obviously in the middle of something rather important, which made him more nervous and more tense than in the past. He spoke of the false consciousness of many blacks who believed the Jews were the instrument of oppression of blacks. And he made note of the fact that even though many Jewish people, for example in New York, own quite a bit of land, one must understand that the overwhelming percentages of mortgages in Harlem was owned not by Jewish people, but by Morgan Guaranty Trust, the Morgan family, and Chase Manhattan Bank, the Rockefellers. He repeated the line from the song he liked so well. Something is happening here, but you don't know quite what it is, do you, Mr. Jones? What he was getting at was that the Jews were simply one strata of society who are themselves being oppressed by people who were much richer and much more powerful. In the agencies of this power, he cited banks, the chief among which were Morgan Guaranty Trust and Chase Manhattan, and the foundations connected with these monoliths. It was not long after this that Stokely Carmichael mysteriously was ousted from both SNCC and the Black Panthers. Apparently, he had learned too much. More and more young radicals are beginning to wake up to the fact that their entire lives have been carefully programmed by the very people who are their hate symbols. They're beginning to realize that their so-called anti-establishment outlook actually is the calculated product of the establishment press, the establishment communications media, the establishment entertainment industry, the establishment schools. Rich men's corporations publish and popularize revolutionary books and songs. Through advertising, rich men's businesses subsidize revolutionary magazines. Rich men's tax-exempt foundations pour millions of dollars into left-wing organizations. The federal establishment in Washington, through agencies like the OEO, provide weekly paychecks to thousands of hardcore revolutionaries. The idea is to create a situation where the people are so frightened of the violence all around them that they will throw their hands up in the air and demand, "Federal government, do something." And the only choice open will be martial law. The communists, black militants, and revolutionaries will never succeed in overthrowing the government of the United States. But unless they are stopped, they will scare the American people into accepting socialism from Washington and statist rule by the insiders of the establishment. This is what it is really all about.